Right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Women in Innovation Building Success webinar today, Exploring Resilience. I'm Siobhan Smith, Lead for Diversity and Inclusion at KTN, and I'm delighted to introduce our speakers today, Nicola Wilcox and Victoria Coxon. Nick and Vic are two of the coaches currently supporting our Women in Innovation programme. Nick works with people who are navigating the stages and changes that life inevitably bring, who want to do that in a way that enables them to understand themselves better, grow in confidence and flourish in their personal and professional lives. And Vic has worked across borders, industries and functions, blending in-house strategic and operational execution with management consultancy in big six and boutique consultancies and coaching. It's given Vic multi-sector experience with resilience and breadth to tackle substantial people challenges. She focuses on the human touch to balance commercial goals with well-being and making working life enjoyable. So it's my pleasure to hand over to Nick today.
Thank you very much, Siobhan, for those introductions, and yes, for giving you the challenge of stumbling over Nick and Vic. We feel a bit like a double act sometimes, so thank you. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time out to join us today. It's great to see so many of you here with us. Over the next hour, Vic's going to lead us through an exploration of this topical subject of resilience and how we can all strengthen our resilience muscles to support us in life. You might like to grab a pen and paper or your note system of choice to capture any thoughts or reflections as we go through the webinar, but we will be sending out a copy of the slides to you, so you'll have that for future reference. We'd love to hear your comments and thoughts as we go along, and we're really keen to encourage that participation, and Vic will lead us at those points and invite us to join in. But if you're happy to do so, do join in and please share your comments in the chat box. The webinar is being recorded, but to reassure you, we'll not be mentioning any names from the chat box, and all of the chat will be deleted before the webinar is published on YouTube, so you don't need to be concerned about confidentiality. Vic's allowed time for questions at the end, so if you do have questions that you would like her to address, please put them in the Q&A box. And you can also use the Q&A box for any technical issues that you may have, and the KTN team will be here to help you with those. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Vic Coxon. She's an ICF accredited and systemic team coach and all-round people and business maven. She brings nearly 30 years of experience of working globally across a variety of sectors and functions, and she's here to talk about a subject that's really dear to her heart, resilience. In her current work, she provides bespoke, transformative consulting and coaching to modern leaders with growing businesses who are ambitious and innovative. She enables her clients to successfully navigate the challenges of change at a personal, team and organisational level, and does this in ways that her clients say surpass their expectations. Her approach is collaborative, astute and meticulous, and it's all wrapped up with humility, humour and grace. When I'm in her company, I inevitably learn something valuable from her, and I'm confident that you will do today about resilience, which is a really important foundation to all of our well-being and performance in life and work. So without further ado, over to you, Vic.
Oh, thanks, Nick and Siobhan, for such lovely introductions. I'm Vic, and thanks again for choosing to join us today. I know that there are some familiar faces on the webinar and lots of new ones too, so a warm welcome to everyone. As coaches, our purpose is to encourage fresh thinking. This webinar is about encouraging some fresh thinking around resilience. And as Nancy Klein says, the quality of everything we do depends on the quality of the thinking we do first. And in the next 40 minutes, we're going to really shine a spotlight on resilience and have a good think about it. It comes up often in our coaching conversations, and not just with women founders or people on accelerator programs. It is a whole life subject. So we'll share a coat hanger model highlighting 5 qualities that can strengthen and boost our ability to lean into life's surprises and experiences, both at home and at work. So most people have heard of the term VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. And hopefully what you're going to pick up today will help you thrive in that modern world that we live in. It's a massive topic, and some say a lifetime's work, so we can only really skim the surface in our short time together today. So what actually is resilience? We're all human and we all get wobbly at times, and yet we're phenomenally resilient at other times. So I'd like to invite you to picture a time when you've been at your most resilient. How did it feel? How would you describe it? And we'd love you to share what resilience means to you in the chat box, please.
So I'll just give a minute or so for comments to come through, but I think it's really helpful to invite us, Vic, to ponder on our previous experiences like that, and experience of being resilient. It's making me think about things like feeling confident, knowing that I was capable. And what's coming through here on the chat, someone said, yeah, survival. I'm in survival mode. And keeping going when it's tough, feeling strong and capable, having the courage to carry on and try again. Loads of comments coming through. Good one here, able to cope with less confident times, appreciating strengths and weaknesses and embracing them. Somebody's written in capitals, self-belief. Loads of stuff coming through. Trusting myself I'll be okay and overcome this challenge. Not giving up, not being pessimistic, managing what you're faced with. Apologies if I'm not reading everybody's. There's loads coming through, Vic, but very similar themes.
Yeah, and they're all valid and all valuable. Resilience is hugely topical at the moment, and each of us are in our own unique situation, our own age and stage, and we see life from our own hilltops. It also comes up for me listening to some of those contributions that resilience is subjective, because we all approach life from the personal journey that we're on, with the experiences, the history, the emotion, the expectations that we each uniquely bring to life. And I've come up with a definition of resilience, but there's so many. But it's about building capability to embrace and learn from situations that enable us to grow and develop and become even stronger as people. And it's not just for ourselves, but it's about the people around us and the systems and organisations that we're responsible for too. And it kind of also says to me that if you're even alive, you will face tough times. Real life isn't Instagram, is it? Yet, when it comes to resilience, it's something we all have. It can be built and strengthened, like building our muscles in the gym. And the willingness to give it a go is free. And for those of us old enough to remember the Martini adverts, it's available anytime, any place, and anywhere. So hopefully what we're going to cover today can be personalised for you in a way that you need to thrive, so that you're match fit for your life, even if it's a tough match at times. So what does neuroscience tell us about mental fitness? I've just got a couple of notes here to make sure that I stay on track, because I can get quite excited about this. The modern world is VUCA, and it's also paradoxically more comfortable than it's ever been before. We're more wired for comfort and ease and becoming more sensitive. So think about our response when the Wi-Fi goes down, for example. World-renowned neuroscientist Dr. Tara Swart, in her book, The Source, asserts that we have the capacity in our brains to live life fully, boldly, and without shame or sadness. By becoming aware of our responses and our behaviour, it can help us shape our reactions to the challenges we encounter in life. And coaching really helps us develop a strong brain. The true power of the brain lies in being able to integrate what we think with what we feel, using the cortex and limbic systems together with what our gut tells us and what we sense through our entire bodies. This creates an experience of life of which we can take true ownership, and ones that are filled with trust in our amazing ability to navigate circumstances, with every part of us aligned and fully immersed. Which leads us on to positive psychology. So traditional resilience models focus on helping people survive, hang on in there and bounce back from difficult times. But instead, this resilience model we're going to have a look at today is rooted in positive psychology. So it's about building capability to embrace and learn from life situations and enable us to grow, develop and become even stronger and connect to our greater purpose. And that's about being match fit for life with a healthy brain, body and mind. And Professor Martin Seligman, who's devoted his life work to this, positive psychology, his work shows that those who practice gratitude, do something altruistic and are optimistic can expect a significantly longer life. So there's lots of other benefits to this positive psychology as well. His research highlights 3 depths. The first one is a pleasant life, which is about positive emotions and pleasures. A good life, which is about using our signature strengths for engagement and flow. And a meaningful life, which is when we know our signature strengths and we use them in service of something greater than us, which is often also described as the life satisfaction factor. Pleasure only makes life better if we have meaning and engagement in place first. So let's be mindful, connect with our head, heart and gut brains, extend our lifespans and share in chat, what are you grateful for today?
That gratitude piece, so important in life, easy to lose sight of when we're under pressure. Grateful for my partner coming up through here, through chat. Family, friends, this webinar. Great, getting something right, Vic. Fantastic kids and husband, my amazing housemate, central heating, my lovely walk with my 6-year-old daughter this morning, colleagues, health, that's a biggie, that I was able to help a friend today. Autumn leaves, sunshine today, chocolate, great thing to be grateful for. Doing work I love, fantastic, that sense of purpose. Not having to worry about my next meal, where my next meal may come from. Yeah, those things that actually we really take for granted, don't we? To have job security at the moment. Some great gratitudes there. Friends, coffee, my dog, being warm.
Marvellous.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold those gratitudes. And we're going to be using them in a little while. And Alvin Toffler's quote here captures what I'm really grateful for, the ability to learn, unlearn and relearn every day, which is vital for strengthening our resilience. So how can we be resilient? Let's come on to the nuts and bolts now. Being real, resilience isn't always easy. It can get messy and any model doesn't promise to eliminate pain. And I was personally very deeply touched researching resilience by the work of Dr. Lucy Hone and her book Resilient Grieving. She wrote while grieving the death of her 12-year-old daughter. So there are times when we really have to meet ourselves where we are. There are lots of resilience models out there and they all have common themes, but this particular one is based on extensive academic and applied research and was co-created with a team I worked with about 5 years ago. It's helpful to break resilience down into 5 qualities because we rely on different qualities at different times and in different quantities. And it's called the resilience multiplier model because if we practice the 5 qualities and 10 behaviours that you can see here, it's a resilience booster. Whether you're a leader, founder, innovator, teammate, all of these, as well as being a human being, it could help raise your awareness, hopefully generate fresh thinking and help build your mental match fitness for life. It may also serve to highlight where you're already strong, where your resilience strengths are, or give you a new perspective on what forms your force field, a bit like Violet out of The Incredibles, if you've seen that film. Any Lisa Nichols fans on the webinar? She says, I am my rescue. I am resourced, whole and capable. So we're also looking at that from the point of view of the confidence that we are resourced to be resilient. So let's have a look round it. And it's no coincidence that compassion is at the centre of the model. And that's actually the power up button. So not only is it a resilience multiplier model, but it's got a power button in the middle. Our research showed that resilient people get that SH1T happens and suffering's part of the human existence. Yet resilient people show kindness in the way that they treat themselves and others. They look after their physical and emotional well-being to stay healthy, and they accept themselves while still working on themselves. Paying attention to our well-being is all about a healthy lifestyle. We know, don't we, when we're getting it right, our diet, exercise, fresh air, sleep, etc. And when we're healthy, we can manage our emotions, sustain energy and think creatively to bring about positive outcomes. At the same time, we found that resilient people serve others and connect and engage without judgment to the wider world or society that they're part of. So they look after their foundations for being grounded and centered by gaining energy and meaning from their connections. So at this point, I'd like to invite you to join us in an exercise which is called open-hearted, wide-angled empathy. And you can stand up if you can, or you'd like to. We can't see you. And you can watch Nick if you would like. She's going to role model it for us. So without becoming judgmental or opinionated, think of someone who really tests your resilience. Notice your bodily or somatic reaction. Breathe in and out. And now stand in your open-hearted stance. So put your shoulders back, lift your head slightly, extend your arms outward. And think of that person again with compassion. And take a deep breath in and out. Notice how your bodily reaction changes again. And now open your thumbs so that they're pointing skywards, as if you're thumbing a lift. Raise your arms again, really channeling your open heart and compassion. And think of that person afresh. And breathe deeply. Notice how your reaction changes again. When you're ready, I'll invite you to sit back down again. And think about what you noticed about the before and after. And we'd love to hear from you in chat. If you're willing to share that, please.
Felt good to stand up after a morning sitting in front of a screen. It was really interesting noticing the difference in feelings. You know, it's very easy to think negatively about somebody, to feel that kind of pinched hunch approach. Backed up here, someone's saying they're feeling more tolerant of that person when you go open-hearted. Freedom, somebody said feeling freedom. It's funny, isn't it? That openness, like arms out, is the precursor to giving a hug, isn't it? Feeling more open to that person, less agitated. Felt low before, but open and more positive. Noticing I was tense in the shoulders, and I literally saw them through a more positive perspective. Someone else has said they're feeling more in control of their own emotions, which is really important, that emotional regulation and management for resilience, isn't it? Feeling more relaxed as I've sat back down. Changing our state by movement. I think you'll agree, Vic, it's a good thing to do, isn't it? saw them in a more positive light. So yes, some themes coming through there.
Oh, great stuff. And it also shows, from what I'm hearing, compassion is a felt experience. It's not something we think about in our heads, it's something we feel in our bodies. So travelling clockwise to coherence next, we found in our research that resilient people are self-aware. They've got a solid understanding of themselves, their role in the world, and how they impact on others, and what they proactively need to do to shape and direct their life and work. They're also really good at choosing where they select their attention. So that's on things that they can change, and accepting or letting go of things that they're unable to change. They manage situations around them that are in their sphere of influence and let go of those that aren't. Resilience is also about recovery and recharging before we sort of zoom off into the next thing. So let's have a look at what we can and cannot control with our circle of concern and influence by Stephen Covey. And I found this tool really useful when my first marriage broke down. But that's probably another story for another webinar over a large glass of wine. So think of a challenge you have at the moment or in the past that's testing your resilience. And now think of an avocado that you've just halved and you've got the half with the stone in it. Think about what you can influence. So that's the avocado stone. And what's concerning you that you can let go of, which is the green outer flesh. And again, we'd love to hear from you on chat. What things you can influence? What's in your avocado stone?
Just allow a minute for people's comments to come through. I love the fact that that model gives you recognition that you have choice, that there's things that you can choose to do. So choosing reaction to the situation coming through. Somebody else talking about the stories I'm telling myself about the situation. Yeah, we can choose how we narrate those stories, how we interpret them, can't we? And how we respond, how we react to that situation. Something about choosing the way we think as well, I was thinking. In fact, somebody's just come through with that. You can choose what and how you think about the situation. You can't change how they react, but we can choose how we react. Really important to recognize that. It's that choice word coming through a lot in the comments, yeah.
There's lots that we can influence, isn't there, to step into our power and then result in really positive change. Yeah, so next time you're faced with anything like that, just choose your half an avocado. So let's move to commitment. Resilient people focus positively, gaining energy and motivation from working in ways that are true to themselves and their purpose in behaviour and action, life and work. This guides and enables them to focus their energy. They maximise their return on effort by remaining optimistic yet realistic about what can be achieved. And I'm wondering if you've heard of the big rocks exercise. And we're going to play a clip now, which is just over a minute and a half long.
There's a well-known story about a university professor who wanted to make a point about how we make the most of our time. The professor stood before his class with some items in front of him. When the class began, without speaking, he picked up a large empty jar and proceeded to fill it with rocks about 2 inches in diameter. He then asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed that it was full. So the professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly and watched as the pebbles rolled into the open areas between the rocks. The professor then asked the students again if the jar was full. They chuckled and agreed that it was indeed full this time. The professor picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. The sand filled the remaining open areas of the jar. Now, said the professor, I want you to recognize that this jar signifies your life. The rocks are the truly important things, such as family, health, and relationships. If all else was lost, and only the rocks remained, your life would still be meaningful. The pebbles are the other things that matter in your life, such as work or school. The sand signifies the remaining small stuff and material possessions. If you were to put sand into the jar first, there is no room for the rocks or the pebbles. The same can be applied to your lives. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are truly important. Pay attention to the things in life that are critical to your happiness and well-being. Take time to look after your health, play with your children, go for a run, write a letter to your grandmother. There will always be time to go to work, clean the house, or watch TV. Take care of the rocks first. The things that really matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just pebbles and sand.
Great, thank you. So what or who are your big rocks that you need to put in your jar first?
If you'd like to put those comments in the chat, we can read those out. Vic, we can't see your slides again now. Okay, so we've got my husband and parents, my husband and daughter, friends, family, and health. I think that's a real biggie, isn't it? Health. My boss requiring lots of online meetings. That sounds like a pressing rock. My family, my uncle and my aunt that raised me. So there's a lot here about people and relationships and connections. My dog, running, yoga, and space to myself. So that kind of wraps around the health and well-being piece, doesn't it? My company. Someone saying, love that. Big rocks, friends, family, health, serving others. My mental health. So lots of things coming through there, people recognizing, and it's a good analogy to work with, I think, that one. Thanks, Vic.
Right, have we got the slides back?
Yep, perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, some really, really good themes there about big rocks. And, you know, being true to self and connecting to what's important to us and our purpose in life. And the observant amongst us would notice the similarity here between the big rocks and Martin Seligman's purpose, engagement and pleasure. So let's move on to connections. Our work proved that resilient people positively interact with others in a way that's meaningful and productive for both parties. They invite relationships and exchange, reaching out to others to give and receive support. And being resilient, we connect to others' worlds and actively adapt and flex our approach, mindsets and ways of thinking as circumstances change and new information or understandings gained, leading to positive outcomes. So let's think about our nourishing people. Who are your nourishing people? What do they give you? And how can you cultivate or nourish these relationships? And as you think about these questions, we'd be really interested to hear what's coming up for you in chat.
So people formed a theme, as a lot of people on the chat were saying about that being a big theme in their big rocks. So yeah, really interested. Who are your nourishing people? What do they give you? I'm thinking that the nourishing people make me laugh. They accept me where I am and who I am. They listen. I was thinking about that. They believe, yeah, it's coming through now, some comments through. Close friends who get me, where there's no judgment, just acceptance. My grandmother's my special person. She believes in me. Somebody else saying friends, they give joy. Monthly Zoom calls, accepting as I am. My husband and my manager, both are my mentors. My family are my big happiness on earth. Yeah. My cabin mates from a summer retreat I went on. That sounds great. Best friends and my sisters. Could all do with a bit of a retreat now.
Yeah, and that non-judgment piece comes through really strongly, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, somebody else here saying, you know, the friends that are there, she's happy to be there for them and they support her through every challenge. And how important it is to cultivate these relationships and give them back what they give. So that reciprocity there.
Oh, remarkable stuff. Thank you, everyone. So let's move on to courage, last but not least. So resilient people look for opportunities to do things differently and better and step bravely into difficult or challenging situations that require them to take a thoughtful and contained risk, a bit like I'm doing today. If we're to be resilient, we need to find the courage to look at things that we need to change about ourselves and be willing to make ourselves vulnerable, consciously seeking to develop and grow not just ourselves, but those around us, so we can all thrive and perform in our ever-changing environment and world. And let's have a look at who we are when we're being truly resilient and think, who am I being? What am I thinking? What am I doing? And we'd love to hear from you in chat if you'd love to share what's inspirational to you.
This is a really interesting one, isn't it? Because it invites us to look at resilience in a very multifaceted way, all sorts of things going on at the same time when I'm truly resilient. So I'm being my authentic self with no limits, somebody's sent in here. I'm being as understanding and gentle with myself as I am with others. So that compassion piece that you were talking about earlier, Vic. I think also for me, there's things around thinking flexibly, thinking kind of, I can get through this. And someone here has said that who am I being? I'm trying to be more and more meaningful, more my fulfilled self. Leaving behind labels and stories that I tell myself, being patient and listening, feeling aligned, looking after needs, clarity of thinking. That's really important when we need to be resilient. And I'm thinking, just do it, just say it. So there's a real gung-ho courage to that comment. And it's followed up by someone saying about thinking of possible paths forward. So thinking in a very constructive and helpful way rather than getting lost in rumination. Great, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. And again, it just shows how personal and unique resilience is to each and every one of us. So let's reflect on our fresh thinking and think about, what do you know now that you didn't before this webinar? And we'd love to hear something meaningful that you can take away from today to put into practice.
Great comment here that I already have the tools needed. Absolutely. Just that moment of reflection, stepping back and realizing you've got what you need to get you through this. That we can use difficulties to grow, that your physical stance can affect your thoughts and actions. Somebody else saying, what is meant by resilience? So understanding that. And again, someone affirming, I'm already actually pretty resilient. I just didn't see it with so much clarity. Absolutely. Body stance changes perception of difficult people. Yeah, so some commonalities there about that. And someone saying that by being compassionate to others, that should remind me to be kind to myself. And taking the time to reflect is so important to understand how resilient I am. Absolutely. And also think about what tools you can draw on at a given time to support your resilience. Great, some good takeaways there.
Yeah, excellent. And I think Nick mentioned earlier that you will get a copy of these slides, so you can use it as a workbook and continue to reflect on some of it after the webinar. So let's have a quick sum up. We know life can be a tough match. Resilience is something we all have. We've just heard that. It can be built and strengthened. It's free and available anytime, any place, anywhere, in that unique way that you need to thrive and be match fit for your life. And it's a lifetime's work. So I'd encourage us all to hold ourselves and those around us accountable for being resilient. And if you fancy some more inspiration on resilience, we're often asked for recommendations in our coaching, on our coaching themes. So in the deck, you will also find this list of genuinely inspirational resources. They're not dry or boring, including yourself And journaling is one of the most powerful tools available when it comes to providing us with, in the fancy words, metacognition, i.e. actually precious data about what we're thinking about, what we're becoming aware of, what we're noticing. So I'd really encourage you all to have a go at that and start to notice themes and patterns. And I've just finished reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I don't know if anybody else has read that. Absolutely brilliant book on resilience and lots of other stuff. So quick book recommendation there. So let's open it up to you. Any insights, curiosities, or what are you wondering?
Yeah, so this is a good opportunity to put your questions in the Q&A box that you might have for Vic and I to respond to. Perhaps while people are thinking about that, Vic, I was thinking about the situation where, you know, if I feel really, really close to burnout and life is really tough, and I've got little energy to focus on my resilience, what can I do?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we've all been there, haven't we, Nick?
Mm.
And you know, it's hard, isn't it? Because as coaches, we ask questions and we listen. So I'm always slightly reticent to give advice. But I'd be really curious to explore why you were close to burnout and explore with you some of the themes around that and what you would need to put in place for you to be your own rescue, going back to Lisa's call.
Mm.
And probably we start around the power up button, around the compassion. You know, what do you need most to take care of you at this delicate time of life?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree. I've got a question here about how does this match the 5 things for wellness model?
I've no idea. What's the 5 things?
I do remember reading about that actually, but I can't remember the the 5 things. And I think the answer is it's very similar. I think lots of these models, there's a lot of overlap, isn't there? We talked about that in our discussion. The principles are the same: compassion, looking after yourself, thinking well, that kind of thing. So yeah. And I'm just tracking back to another question here.
Just while you do that, Nick, there's so many models out there. You know, it's about finding that unique blend and mix that works for you in your life with your emotions, experience, history, dynamics, everything. So, you know, be playful with them, have a little play and see what works best for you.
It's horses for courses, isn't it? It's really kind of finding what are going to be the tools and techniques for you and working out your modus operandi, isn't it? Rather than having a one size fits all. Somebody's questioned here about how to overcome fear of rejections. So in the context of resilience, perhaps? For me, I wonder, is that something about the kind of connections that we make? There's another exercise that I sometimes do with clients. Don't know if you've come across it, Vic, called the drains and radiators. So identifying the people that radiate and are positive for you and the people that are the drains, and how you can dispense with the drains and include the radiators in your life. I don't know if that responds to that question.
Yeah, I guess the radiators are the nourishing people in life and the drains are the toxic people in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question here from someone. How can we better support others to become more resilient?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. What shows up and how? And you know, it's about being a nourishing person yourself, isn't it? And how can you support people? How can you help them grow and develop? And how can you ask them the right questions that help them think things through for themselves and work towards their potential? I think that's one of the things that I absolutely love about being a coach, is doing exactly that.
Yeah, it's kind of asking, what do they need? What would be helpful for them, isn't it? Yeah. Somebody asking for a book reference, not sure which book that was. Maybe it was the Glennon Doyle one that you've just referenced, Vic. And someone else has given actually another recommendation, another great read, The Shed Method by Sarah Milne Rowe. Never heard of her.
Oh, excellent. I'll get that on Amazon afterwards and read it. All the book references will be in the deck for everybody.
And I've set a rod for my own back here there because I've got a question from someone. Any advice for getting rid of the drains? That's a tricky one. Let me know when you've got the answer to that one.
I was going to say that. It's back to your avocado stone, isn't it? Yeah. So what can I control, influence, and what can I not control and influence? And where am I going to put my precious energy? Because it's a finite resource. I'm going to put it counterintuitively on the avocado stone, not on the bit that's nice to
on the flesh. Oh, another book recommendation here, Grit by Angela Duckworth. Yeah, that I would second that. That's a good one. That is a good one. Right, let me just go to my questions again. More about the drain person. I like my job in innovation, but have to deal with a drain person on a daily basis. What other tools can give me resilience in dealing with them? Wide-angled empathy seems a good first step. Have you got any comments on that, Vic?
Yeah, I guess it's about the impact that this person may be having on you in this example, isn't it? How we share the impact that other people are having on us, because I think the statistic is 97% of things that happen in life are not personal, which is the vast majority. So it won't be deliberate or personal. They may not even be aware. It's about opening up a conversation, isn't it? And that going back to the connections, how can we connect here in a way that works for both and benefits both, and is in service of the greater purpose? And asking, just sometimes having a reframing around what's going on here can be hugely helpful.
I think you're right. And I think also referencing back what you were saying at the beginning about, you mentioned Nancy Klein at the beginning, and of course her focus on listening. And we know, don't we, that most people, if we assume positive intent with people, most people want to be heard and understood, don't they? So how can I step into that position with that person that is that drain? How can I really listen? What's going on for them in that moment? So I think listening is powerful.
Yeah, and I think, I'm hearing a couple of other things maybe for future webinars. There's something about dealing with drains. And there's something coming up as well about how to have some of these difficult conversations from a coaching perspective, so they're non-threatening and coming from a position of curiosity.
Brilliant. Okay. So I think we're coming to the end of questions at the moment. There's other useful things coming through and other book recommendations. Somebody said, oh, yes, please, more on how to deal with difficult conversations. Yeah.
It's something we all have to deal with.
Yeah.
Life, isn't it?
Thanks for that, Vic.
Well, just to say, all 4 coaches in residence are here. Reach out to us anytime. Maybe we could talk about some of these things in slower time as well. And just want to say thank you for listening, and thank you particularly to the KTN team for organising this. And in gratitude of you all, namaste. And we'll hand back to Siobhan for the Mentimeter.
Yes, so thank you so much, both of you. We've got a quick Menti question for you all, so please don't dial out yet. We are going to ask you to go to www.menti.com. You can do this on your phones or on your computers. Enter code 2634249. This will be displayed on the screen throughout, so right at the top, and we're going to ask you just one question. So if Poonam, you'll flick over, what is your key takeaway from today's session? And if you could let us know that would be great. So it's via Menti, www.menti.com, use code 2634249, and let us know what your key takeaway from today's session is. So we've got a couple of answers coming through now. I'm stronger than I think I am. I'd agree with that as well. I think that's obviously going to be a key one. Everybody, I think, does go away and think I'm not a strong person. But actually, when you reflect on it, you are a lot stronger than you think that you are. Some fantastic answers coming through. Nick, Vic, any that stand out to you?
I love that one. I'm not alone. So that shared experience, you know, we're all going through this stuff. I think everybody's in some shape or form working with resilience at the moment.
Yeah. Be patient with yourself. I think
Yeah.
that's a key one as well.
Focus on the important things. It's often overlooked, but it's a great skill to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Be kinder to yourself as well. And patient
Yeah.
with yourself.
Some great comments coming through, actually. The multiplier model is helpful. Thank you. Anything is possible. That's our modus operandi as coaches. We think all sorts of things are possible. We believe in potential. Resilience is multifaceted. Yeah, lots of different strands. Vic, anything that's running out to you?
Yes, it's back to the power up button of being kind to ourselves, particularly in the current climate, you know, where we've got all sorts of stuff to deal with. And it's that ripple effect in the system, isn't it? We've had people talk about their families today and their partners and work and being grateful for an income. There'll be people on the call that haven't got an income and are worried about finance, you know, and how we can all support each other. So, yeah, really important.
Really great.
Yes, thank you all so much for all your answers. We'll leave Menti open for a minute or two, but I'm just going to wrap things up. I know we've finished a little bit early, but that's just adding a little bit of extra time to your day, which hopefully giving you a little bit of time back. So I'm going to thank you so much, Nick and Vic, for the session today, and say that hopefully we've all took some lessons and exercises away that can help us grow and thrive when we're faced with challenges, and ensure that we recognise the things and people that are important to us and take time to reflect on it, because we all are resilient, so we really need to recognise that and give ourselves the credit that we deserve. Thank you again to all of our wonderful coaches that have taken us through the last few sessions. Please do look out for an exclusive offer courtesy of our coaches, which will be sent to all of our Women in Innovation newsletter subscribers in the coming weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And I want to say that we have our next Women in Innovation webinar on the 11th of November. It's part of our Let's Talk About series, where guest host Sherry Kutu will be joined by guest panelists to explore the importance of inspiring future generations. We hope that you can join us for that one. And just before we go, I want to say a last thank you to you all for joining us today, joining in on all of the exercises. As mentioned, the recording and slides will be circulated and made available on the Women in Innovation webpage. And lastly, I'd just like to mention that if you want to keep up to date with all of the Women in Innovation news and events, you can sign up to the newsletter, or you can join our online community on LinkedIn. So once again, thank you, Vic and Nick, for today's session, and to everybody that joined us today. Go and grab a cup of tea and have a little bit of time to reflect a little bit more on how resilient you just are. Thank you, everyone. Bye.